All right. Welcome to the Black and Blue podcast. This is our first episode. My name's Travis,
I'm Emmett.
and we are here to talk all things jujitsu. So, in this one, it's going to be why we roll and the start of the journey. I'll go over my story first, and then I'll hand it over to Emmett. Why I started jujitsu. I got into it because of UFC. I got into it because of the Ultimate Fighter. 2004, Ultimate Fighter came out, and the Forrest Griffin and Stephan Bonner fight really sealed the deal for me. Absolutely loved that one. My story is a crazy one. I started doing jujitsu on a hardwood floor with sprawled out, sleeping bag. With a buddy. We were watching like the Gracie Combatives videos, and that's how I got in it. And it was like we made a pact. It was like we just wanted to get our blue belts. And in that time, there was no jujitsu in the city I lived, so it was just like, cool, we're just gonna do it.
Is Gracie Combatives the one where they invite people over to beat the crap out of them?
So Gracie Combatives was it was a DVD set. It was like you got 6 DVDs. They showed you like your basic Upas, basic side mount escapes, and that they were infamous for like mailing your blue belt. So you would like send videos of yourself doing the moves,
That's awesome.
and then if you did a good enough job of videos and sending them the moves, they would mail you your blue belt, and they got a lot of heat for it.
Is that how you got your blue belt?
No. I ended up having a falling out with that friend and moved down to Canmore. And then Canmore, like I moved 2 weeks before the flood. And so I wanted to start jiu-jitsu because I knew that there was a club out here, but like it flooded, so I had to wait until the town was back up. It was about 2 months. And then from there, I started jiu-jitsu here in a small town. It was being led by a 4-stripe blue belt at the time. And then, eventually, after like a whole bunch of ups and downs, I got under Champions Creed, started my own club, and then I got my blue belt.
Right. You started your own club when you were still a white belt.
Yeah. 3-stripe white belt. Insane. Dumbest thing ever. I'm getting a rash guard made up. It's going to be too dumb to quit.
That's awesome.
So that's how I got started. It was Ultimate Fighter. Wanted to do it. Used to get bullied as a kid, so I wanted to learn how to defend myself rather than just swing bombs when you see red.
Yeah, I remember when that first couple UFCs came out, and you had to get it on like a tape, like a VHS tape. That's probably the first time I heard about jiu-jitsu too. I was living in Costa Rica in the early 2000s, and some guys I knew, I don't know how they had gotten their blue belts, but somehow through some Brazilian guy who was visiting, they had their blue belts, and they were doing classes out of, a tiny, tiny gym. So I took a couple classes there with them and immediately thought I was a total badass after that. Didn't really work out that way, and then there was like a huge gap where I didn't do jiu-jitsu again. I tried going to lots and lots of gyms, and it wasn't until I came to Dark Horse, literally 20 years later, that I found like an environment that I wanted to be in. It wasn't like, like a bunch of macho dickheads.
Yeah, we were the right kind of cult.
You were the right kind of cult for me. Yeah. Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah. And then how long did it take you to get your blue belt?
I think I started in like, I'm older too, for our listeners, to let everyone know. I didn't really start jiu-jitsu till I was 45. And so it took me until I was 46. It took me about a year and 2 months, or a year and 3 months, or something like that.
Not that you were counting.
No, counting days, not months.
Yeah. That test was a hard test. There was a crew of big guys there.
I was like, I saw everyone's face sort of towards the end, and I was pretty sure you guys were getting ready to call an ambulance for me. So
I remember how pale you were. I was like, oh, we might have killed a guy. Well, that would have been a first for us. We had a puke bucket. One person used that. I was like, sweet. And then, yeah, I think we almost killed you.
So another thing I think you wanted to talk about today was what keeps people coming back to jujitsu.
Yeah. And I mean, let's hear your story on it and then like why you kept coming back and like what made you make the choice that you wanted to do it after like that 20-year gap.
You know what? I think it's kind of like a good medium where it's like you can set a really long-term goal with like achievable midpoints along the way. So, even as like a 45-year-old, it's like I can say legitimately one day I want to be a black belt. And it's not like I want to join the NBA. That's probably not going to happen for me.
WNBA.
But you can set long-term achievable goals that are physical and mental. There's so many factors to it. Even like the companionship, learning to defend yourself. There's a lot to it, I think.
Definitely. I think a big thing, and I've seen it over the years that I've been doing this, community. Like a big thing is community and like the people that are there for you. You tend to just like want to be there for them and you just repeat that cycle. I think that here at Dark Horse, we have a pretty awesome community and welcoming, open, not really full of meatheads, but still competitive. It's kind of an all-around gym where you can either be there for getting fit, be there for making friends, be there for competing, be there to transition into MMA, whatever you want. And like, we're open to it all. So community is a big part of why people tend to come back. But the long-term goals and stuff like that, definitely for sure.
And what about like from your experience, you've probably seen lots and lots of people not come back. So, so the people who aren't coming back, what do they not get out of it, or what do they not have, or what do they not, what are they not gaining from jiu-jitsu?
One of the things that I see is like our society is like an instant gratification society for sure. Hard work isn't like a big thing anymore, or like putting in the work, even if it's not hard, putting in the work. Or I'm also stingy with stripes, like on promotions. I won't promote you if I don't think you're ready. I think that's a hindrance. I won't give you a stripe unless you've earned it. And people just want that instant gratification. Like, I'm gonna probably shit on karate a little bit, but like, I mean, they give instant gratification. It's like, here, learn those moves, and bam, you get it, which is fine for them. That's what they've kind of brought up upon. Where jiu-jitsu's hard. Jiu-jitsu's really hard, and a lot of people downplay that. They're like, no, you should come do it. It's easy and all this other stuff. No, it should be hard. And I think of it should be hard where you should have to put in the work. You should have to, if it's something that you want to do, put in the work. And people just don't.
And is that the main factor that you think that you see in people who don't come back? Is you see that they make that realization that like, oh shit, this is going to be hard. I don't really want to deal with hard.
Yeah, I would say that's probably the main one. Another one would be like injuries, or they have a job and like they can't like injure their fingers or anything. But the problem with that is those people are like, I can't get injured, but they're also the ones that go 100% in a role, and you're like, just chill out. If you can't get injured and you just want to be here for community, just come to class and like play around with the technique, flow roll with a person. But a lot of people that are of that mindset, they go, no, 100%, and then they burn out, or they're like, they're done. And that's part of the problem as well, is like the person has to like understand what their goals are.
Yeah. You know, one thing that's interesting about the hard work thing is that the older guys that you see, I'm, you know, small sample for me, you know, but like
Generalizing.
generalizing, but the older guys, at least at our gym, are all guys that have like made something of themselves and like are pretty successful because they've worked super hard. And so it's almost like they go in like Jared, you know, he hardworking, like disciplined guy.
Willing to put in the work.
Yeah, he's willing to put in the work, and it's like second nature. Hard work is second nature.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's interesting to.
You see that in a few of, like, there's a gap there where some people are like, oh, they think that they should just get it. And then you see kids like Jonah.
Mm.
Now that little bugger he's the hardest working guy in the room. He puts in the work, and he's young. He's like 20. And I think that has to do with just how he was raised. It was like, no, you don't get anything for free.
And he knows what he wants to get out of it too.
Yeah,
right?
he's got goals. I talked to him about them, and
Yeah.
and he's been with us since he was like 16 or 17. He's like, no, I know what I want to do. I want to be this. And he just recently took over the teen class because he wants to teach. He wants to learn how to do it. Eventually, he wants to kick my ass. A little shout out. He's never going to do it, but I'll keep giving him little breadcrumbs to. He's going to kick my ass. I'm going to be old and decrepit, and then he's just going to work me.
And what about you know, another thing we were going to try and cover today was for anyone who's listening who is thinking about jiu-jitsu, wants to come in for their first day. You know, I've heard it said like the hardest belt to get is the white belt because you have to, you know, it's like magic to people. What's that expression? Any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic.
Yeah.
And it's like you come in and you see some of the shit that people are doing on the mats, and you're like, what is that? You know, like so for a white belt who's just coming in, maybe never had any martial arts experience before, they're stepping onto the mat for the first time. What advice are you giving them?
For advice, one thing that I just briefly touch on: if you have zero martial arts experience, you're the best kind of student. If you have previous, like you're like, I'm a black belt in karate, and then you step on the mats, your ego is going to get injured really quick, and most people can't handle that. So if you have like zero martial arts experience, that's the best kind of student I found. I'm just like, sweet, I want to teach you everything because it's a blank slate. The fears that I see is like, one, like a fear of connection, like just like grabbing someone else or like having someone lay on you, or the weight, or claustrophobic kind of fears like that. There's so many, but the cool thing is jiu-jitsu helps you work through those in a safe environment. Yeah, at Dark Horse, there's some clubs that are horrendous for that, but like Dark Horse, we're pretty friendly, welcoming. The more experienced people always take the new people under their wing, and yes, and you'll work through those fears. You'll work through that uncomfortableness, and I say it all the time. It's that being comfortable in uncomfortable situations, and that's what I want to provide for everyone.
And so when that first, like the white belt comes in and you're talking to them for the first time, you set the stage and say kind of like, look, there's gonna be some uncomfortable situations. Like, just understand that we're here to teach you how to work through those things.
Yeah, for the most part, I usually like welcome them, and then I send them over to like a social butterfly or someone that will help them out. They don't have to be like a super social butterfly where they're like bubbly and stuff, but like Jason's a beautiful example where I'm like, hey, new guy, there's Jason. He's a blue belt. He's really good at teaching, like, and he loves helping new people in because that's how he came in. He came in our first beginners only program, and yeah, so like I direct them to the people, or if it's a young person, I send them over to Jonah or Avon or someone younger that will help them get like get their feet wet kind of thing, and be like, hey, here you go. It's not that bad. It's not that intimidating. We're a bunch of nerds like on the mats. It's
And they've been in it a while, but not so long that they don't remember what it was like to be a beginner. So they're able to kind of communicate that a little bit better.
Yeah, and significantly better than myself. Like I try, but I've been in the game since when jujitsu, like when you start at a club, you just got the shit kicked out of you day in, day out. Like I came out of there with black eyes, bloody noses, bruises everywhere. And that was like the first year. And like it was relentless. Nobody was friendly. Like we just stepped on the mats. Sometimes a class was taught, sometimes we just rolled and I knew nothing. Just got the shit kicked out of me. And that's and like it was weird because the teacher at the time, he was like, oh, I don't know why nobody's staying. It's like, because you kicked the shit out of that guy. Yeah. And now he has to go to work all beat up. And then it just takes a rare stupidity like my own to be like, no, I'm going to stick around and learn it. And then when I eventually started teaching, I was like, I ain't doing that. I did like that whole parent thing where you're like, oh, I grew up this way. I'm not going to show that. I'm going to do it another way.
And that was part of my journey, is like trying a bunch of places and I was just like, this is not for me. You know, like I don't need to get the shit kicked out of me by some guy who has something to prove. It's just like not my cup of tea, you know, like, so.
Yeah. And like, that's another thing. And that's actually a really good point is if the first club you go to sucks or it's not for you, go to a different one. Like, it doesn't mean you have to sit there and grind through it. If you don't catch a good vibe or anything like that from the people, or nobody talks to you, or they run you to the ground, and that's not something that you want, jiu-jitsu's everywhere nowadays. Like, you can find another club, and it's worth it. It's definitely worth it if you're trying it out. But yeah, some clubs suck.
And so when you were like early on in your journey, aside from getting the shit kicked out of you every single day, was there a point where you kind of had a mentor or like a person who was further along than you that you really like kind of did latch onto and you were like, yeah, this is the person I want to learn from?
Actually, no. I was one of those independent. I've always had an independent nature, but what actually made me keep coming back was I convinced a buddy to join, and I worked with him. And that's the guy that I started the club with, and or like Bow Valley Jiu-Jitsu with, and I can like convince him. I was like, "Hey, buddy, come on!" And then it was a little selfish on my part. I just wanted someone that I could beat up. I was getting beaten up every day. There was a guy named Big Dave, beat the shit out of me every day.
Oh, I know Big Dave. Yeah. He's beaten the shit out of me many times. Yeah,
and that's the thing. Like, it's not fun, but like I got him invested in it, and then I started teaching him. Like when the blue belt instructor guy stopped like coming, like I don't know, it was crazy. Like every now and then he would show up. When he wasn't there, I was like the next guy, and I was like a 2-stripe blue belt or 3-stripe white belt. And I was teaching, and I was like, well, I don't know like anything other than like 4 moves, so we're gonna learn 4 moves. But I competed a lot too. So yeah, I didn't really have any kind of instructors to look up to. I just kept showing up.
Have you ever, just on the topic of beginners, have you ever seen, or what are some instances where you've seen a beginner with like a wild trajectory, you know, where you're just like, holy shit, that person just started, or that person's only been doing this for a little while? Like what are some different trajectories that you've seen with students, you know?
There's some of those students, and it's not really like the athletic ones that I latch to. It's the ones that you see them think and you see them go, oh, that's an interesting way to do it. And you see how if they're already starting to think on like their first or second day, or they're asking good questions.
Yeah.
Like when they ask like really good questions, we have a couple people right now and they ask really good questions. And it's not like, oh, what if? It's like, oh, if they're doing this, why would I be in this situation? And then we can like, and like it's like in-depth thinking, and those ones are the ones, and those trajectories are the ones that I see like go through the roof.
That probably ties into, you're a huge advocate for taking notes. And I think that kind of provides a baseline when you're, and speaking of advice for beginners too, like I know for me, when I take notes, it provides like a baseline where you're like, okay, I can, even if I don't remember the intricacies of this move or this sequence of moves, at least I can kind of like, my notes help me picture something about that, and then I can ask the next time it comes around, or the next time I'm thinking about it, or it happens in a roll, then I can be like, move a little deeper into that move.
Yeah. Notes, I can't speak on them enough. Like, and there's so many different ways to write notes, and it will work for you. Like, write notes all the time. I remember talking with Carter one time, and he was surprised that I have like notes on students, I have notes on myself, I have notes on competitions, I have notes on UFCs that I watched. I write in my like notebooks all the time, and I got so many. I got like 14 or 15 right now, and that's like on the go. Like, I have other ones that are just complete and like, I don't know, gathering dust, but I think it helps so much for retention, for like the looking back at it and then asking. Like, I know that you come to like advanced classes and you have great questions or like problems that you want to help solve, kind of thing. And I think note taking is a beautiful thing. So if you're just starting, get a notebook. Highly recommend pen to paper. I know that phones are easy nowadays, but put in the work. Get pen to paper. That's a physical activity right there, to take something mental, like you learn it physically, process it mentally, and then you process that mentally back into physicality on a piece of paper.
Like, I remember you saying you even used to, I don't know if you still do, but you even used to take notes while watching videos. So like you'd watch an instructional video and take notes on it.
Oh yeah, I still do that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I take notes all the time. I actually go out to like a restaurant like every now and then, like for lunch, and I will watch a video and I'll take notes on it. So I'm one of those weird guys that has a notebook, writing AirPods in and just watching a video. But yeah, that's me. I just love the sport, and like
What's the method for note taking? Like, what, is there I kind of just scribble the most important things down, like the things that I can remember in the moment. I know one thing that I mentioned recently to you, and you were like, yeah, that's right. Is kind of wait till after class and then take some notes.
I don't know if there's a right or wrong, but I would wait till after class and like immediately after class, like write notes. During class, you're probably going to miss reps and stuff, and you're going to miss that time that you can actually physically do it. But yeah, right after class, right when you get home, something like in a short time span. Yeah. And yeah, don't leave it for too long. That would be another thing. And like the way I write notes is very procedural. So it's like step A, right hand grabs left arm at the tricep kind of thing, and like write it to a side so that when you look back at your notes, if you ever look back at your notes,
yeah, that's a good one.
yeah. You're not like hand grabs wrist, and then you're like,
like
well, what wrist?
Hand grabs other wrist.
Yeah.
What does that mean? Yeah.
So,
that's good. Yeah,
so then you just sit there and you're like, oh, I was an idiot. And I do have like I had like 2 white belt notebooks. Like I look back on probably at purple belt level, and I was like, I want to see what like I was like back then. And it was like looking through a kaleidoscope of terrible notes. I was just like, oh, I was an idiot.
Yeah.
But it was good because it helped me process what I was doing at the time. I definitely refined my note taking. I know lots of people like even draw little pictures or diagrams kind of thing, like, and that's how they write notes. But however it is, just write your notes to your style.
I've seen some people. Trevor used to do that. Diagram out the pathways.
Yeah,
So
like spider web.
Yeah, like a spider, like like this move to this move to this move to this move, and this is one of my preferred pathways to get to whatever.
Yeah. And if you look at my notes, when I'm thinking about stuff, I I have like technique notebooks, I have other ones, but when I'm thinking about like moves and like sequences like that, I start at the end and I reverse engineer it. So I've tried to teach like that, like teach how I actually learn, and I get blank looks. People are just like, I don't get it. But I reverse engineer everything. Like I like 411. So I start at 411 and then I like dissect it how to get there and what are the defenses at the very end point, and then keep working backwards to like a standing guard
Oh wow, yeah,
or a
no,
seated guard.
that's over my head, man, for sure.
Yeah, that's how I've always thought of it, though. It's crazy.
Yeah, I think I'm too dumb for that.
Well, I don't know. I don't know if it's has
But
anything to be dumb. It's just
but
how my
you
stupid brain works.
but you also, like, in your other life, you were a mechanic, right?
Yeah,
So your whole the way your brain works is let's pull this apart
yeah.
and let's put it back together again.
Well, it was usually here's the end result, which is a problem,
Right.
and then you have to take it back to the beginning to when it wasn't a problem.
Right.
And that's how my brain worked. It was like, okay, well, like an engine only needs three things to run: air, fuel, and an ignition source.
Yeah.
And like if a vehicle's not running, it's one of those. So you have to like
Yeah.
reverse engineer.
So I think like your approach is Tony Stark and mine is Hulk smash.
I mean, yeah. I mean, the only problem with that is there's a brilliant scientist under the Hulk.
There is.
Yeah,
Yeah, there
I
is.
mean,
There is.
I'd probably say I'd go more Juggernaut.
Yeah. Yeah. Just move forward at all costs. Yeah.
But yeah, so I would assume those would be some good tips. That's a decent amount of information for any beginners. I mean, you're closer to the white belt level, so I'll throw this out at you. What's the best advice for a white belt? What would you tell your white belt self?
So I am one of those social butterflies, I think, here, that like I really like to share information with people. And
Like too much. No.
yeah, probably too much. And it's like I said to someone today, I was like, look, man, what I'm telling you is probably 50% right and 50% wrong, but at least it's not all wrong. So, but I think like what I try to set the stage for people a little bit and say, look, nobody here is going to try and hurt you. Like we're all kind of in this together. Everyone here wants to see you succeed. So when you're rolling, take it easy. It's okay. Like you're not fighting for your life. Try and like be loose, try and like understand what's going on, and don't freak out because no one here is trying to hurt you. And I think like you can see people kind of go like, okay, that's that sets people at ease a little bit. And then and something you drilled into me like every time for whatever that was, like the first 6 months that I was training, is just finding ways to make space in roles, and just like your priority is breathing. So find a way to get into a position where you're able to breathe. I think those are the two main things that I try and repeat to new people.
I think that's just straight up great advice. Breathing is a big one.
Yeah.
Either gain space or take away space, depending on where you're at in it. But you can do either or through frames, posts, and stuff like that. But yeah, gain space if you're on the bottom so you can breathe and survive. Take away space if you're on top so you can not allow them to breathe and not allow them to survive.
Yeah. And another one is if you're the two that are kind of sides of a coin. One is like if you're in someone's guard, you're not going to submit them. Like stop wasting energy trying to submit someone when you're in their guard or you're on the bottom, you know, like it's not going to happen. You're wasting energy. And the other one I think is kind of just like wasting energy at all. Like just wait. You can wait things out and try and be safe and then like see when opportunities come up rather than just like exert.
Yeah. Like don't death grip.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's, like death gripping and wasting all your energy in the first 30 seconds is actually how I deal with like all those muscle guys that come in. I was like, cool, I'll allow you to do that for 30, 40 seconds, but jiu-jitsu is its own beast and you're going to burn out quick. So yeah, like find places to breathe in a controlled manner. And yeah, everyone here is trying to have fun. Everyone here has to go work the next day. So
Yeah.
take her easy. And like, if you want to compete and that's a goal, there's classes for that. But when it's like your first couple, just chill. Just be comfortable in uncomfortable situations or learn to be. And you definitely will learn that. But as we said earlier, it's hard.
And like another thing is, you know about like the complexity of moves and you're trying to like, it's a fire hose of information when you first start and you're like, I'm not remembering any of this. There's too many little pieces to remember. So I think when you give people information that's more like a rule of thumb, then it's like, okay, Emmett said, try and get yourself to a position where you can breathe better. It's not like tuck your elbow, like, you know, do this, grab that. It's just like, I just need to breathe right now. So I'm going to find a way to breathe right now.
Yeah.
You know?
I think that's probably the best advice. Like, just find out how to breathe. White belt is the survival belt.
Yeah.
You don't get a blue belt under me unless you can survive. So. And I make you survive.
Even though I only barely survived the blue belt test.
We almost had our first ambulance ride here.
I would have expected to still get the belt now.
Oh yeah, I would have wrapped it around you. And it's like, what are you doing? He's in the casket.
Just toss it in the grave, the casket as they lower it in.
I'm proficient at this. Don't worry. Wow. So, I think that's our first episode.
Yeah,
I'm pretty happy with that.
I'm happy with that too. Yeah.
Cool. And if you guys liked it, we're gonna try and put one out once a week, once every 2 weeks. Jump on, like, and subscribe. And as always, keep kicking the shit out of Emmett. No.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone. And we will be back soon.
Thank you.